$10 bands, 50 bands, 100 bands, fuck it, man. Let's just not even discuss it.
Wile E. Coyote here, episode 2 of the Exhaust Note. I'm coming to you today from across the pond in Ireland. This is a special episode. I happen to be on vacation, so I apologize for the sunburn face. And I'm doing this video because my blog is supposed to be all about cars, and I actually had an interesting experience over here that I wanted to share with you guys. So in Ireland, as you all know, they drive right-hand drive vehicles. They drive on the left-hand side of the road. In addition, the majority of the cars over here are manual. So when we were going to rent a car, I had originally chosen the cheapest thing possible, a VW Golf, thinking, I'll just figure out manual, it'll be fine. I drive it every day at home. You know, I've been doing it for years. I'm sure I can figure out how to do it. Get to the desk, start talking to the gentleman. One thing leads to another, and I end up upgrading to this. A right-hand drive Jag. I will say that as I've driven it now, it's the base Jaguar, which is fine, but I figured, shoot, for the cheap upgrade fee that it ended up being, the guy at the desk was a car guy, I'm a car guy, so he ended up giving it to me for a good deal. Figured, what the hell. And I figured today I would do a little bit of review on this 2018 Jaguar XE right-hand drive. What's interesting to me is the differences between a Jaguar you would find in the States versus a Jaguar that you would be driving over here or that you might rent over here. The two big ones being, of course, it's right-hand drive and it's manual. You cannot find either of those two things in the States. I'm not even sure you can order a Jaguar in a manual, even if you wanted to, especially a Jaguar sedan, much less. So I figured I would do a little video on my driving impressions, how it's been, and what I really think of the car. So overall, my driving impressions in Ireland are that it's really interesting. The roads over here are very narrow and everyone drives pretty quickly. So it's tough to sort of keep your wits about you, but you really have to, because one move wrong one way or the other, you're losing a mirror, you're losing a tire. You got to be real careful. So insurance is key. I know nobody ever takes the insurance on your rental cars. Let me suggest, if you ever come over to Ireland and rent a car, take the insurance. Take the full insurance. It's worth it. You know, the other interesting thing about this Jag is that it's diesel, and I'll admit I don't know a huge amount about Jaguars in the US. I am not nearly rich enough to be able to afford one, so I don't know all the different ordering configurations, but I think it's pretty hard to order one in diesel. So the problem with this one is that I think it's a little slow. Again, it's the base Jaguar. It does have some interesting features. It has this little start-stop button here that sort of begs you to turn the car on. It also has, and I didn't find this out until about day 2, it also has a sport mode and an eco mode. This car, much like the newer Fords, has the auto start stop, so when you pull up to a stoplight, the car will turn itself off if you want it to. But it also has a sport mode, which I have to be 100% honest with you, I'm not sure it does a ton. It does make it a little bit more enjoyable to drive, but this is for sure the base model Jag. It has this nice little infotainment system here. It's got a home. You can hook up you know, your music, your phone to it, much like you can in the US. This particular model has park distance control. It's got some really good touch button AC controls, things like that. It does have a nice leather interior. Somewhat sport bucket seats. It actually has here some decent bolstering, but it really is the very base level Jag, which again, as a rental car, does not surprise me. I will say in terms of handling and cornering, it's actually not so bad. You know, again, it's the base model, so the tires are not extremely wide, and I'm willing to bet that the suspension is set up somewhat basic. I'm sure it probably is not a very aggressive setup, but I will say it's not too bad. The roads over here in Ireland can have some very tight corners and some pretty decent switchbacks, which, if I was driving my M3, would probably be awesome. And in this car, there's not a huge amount of body roll. It actually sticks pretty well into the corners. So I have to say I'm pretty impressed with, you know, the way the car handles. I never power slid it or anything like that. But, you know, going around some of those tight corners, they come up on you quickly and you're going a little bit faster than you're planning on. This car was able to take everything I threw at it, which was nice, and kind of fun, which was part of the reason why I enjoyed all this. You know, it's an interesting car. It's an interesting experience to drive this in Europe. I will say a big reason that I did this is that I have always had a dream, call it stupid, but I've always had a dream that I have wanted to drive a right-hand drive manual car in Europe. And so this was a sort of a fun way for me to live that dream and have a little bit of fun for a week fairly inexpensively. So I had a lot of fun doing it. Would I do it again? Absolutely. Would I do it again with a different car? Probably. Again, this Jag, while it is the base level car, was fun, but I think required a lot of coordination between the downshifting and the upshifting to try and really maximize your RPM range. You know, it takes some getting used to figure out how to drive manual on the other side of the car. The pedals are still done clutch, brake, gas, but the gearbox is set up the opposite way, so it's set up exactly as it would be if you were driving in the US. So first is actually further away from you, and then fifth and sixth gear are closest to you. So that takes some getting used to, because you have to remember the correct way to downshift and upshift. Upshifting is close to you, downshifting is further away. The whole thing can get a little tough, especially out on the roads. Everyone else is used to doing this and you're not, so you got to figure it out fast. So that part took a little bit of getting used to. I have to admit, I didn't stall once, which I'm really proud of myself for. I have to give myself a little pat on the back. But, you know, after I got used to it, it's actually not so bad. And once you sort of figure out the roads and the rules and things like that, it really is not too bad. So overall, I would say this has totally been worth it. And I've had a lot of fun driving this particular car. I don't have a huge amount of video of me actually driving it, mostly because trying to videotape and drive, number one, is crazy, especially over here. And two, I don't have any of the setup to be able to record a decent amount here that I would in the States, because I wasn't planning on actually making this video. So I don't have a huge amount of video of me driving the car. But I will say that if any of you guys get a chance to do it, I would certainly say go for it, especially if, you know, you're used to driving manual and you're comfortable with it. If you're really not, you're just starting out, do not do it. Get an automatic, go that route. It can be very difficult to try to be learning manual and driving on an opposite side of the car and an opposite side of the road that you're used to. Not a good idea. So if you're comfortable with manual, I'd say go for it. If you're not, I would say rent the automatic. It's more expensive, but the peace of mind so that you can concentrate on the road is definitely worth it. And I can certainly say that I've had the time of my life over here driving this car around. It's gotten some compliments. It's gotten some comical chuckles from people. But I can definitely say that it's been worth it. So I figured while I was over here, I would do the video. I'd review the car. You know, it's, as I said, because it's a diesel, it does not have a lot of torque or horsepower, so it's not hugely fast. If you do the right rev matching and downshifting, you can get it to play around and have some fun, especially when you put it into the sport mode. But it's not a car that really has a massive amount of get up and go. It's not slow by any means, but it does not really throw you back in your seat. I will certainly say that. Again, I think just with how diesel cars are set up over here, this being the base model, it really does not throw you back in your seat. But again, if you can rev match appropriately and, you know, downshift at the right amount of times and really maximize your RPM range, we can have some fun with it. All right, so I hope you guys had fun watching, and I hope you had as much fun watching as I did making this video. Feel free to like and comment below or ask me some questions. I'm happy to answer anything. And that's all for now. I'll see you guys in the next episode of The Exhaust Note.